Irving, the Indianapolis Colts are the first team in the Super Bowl era to not punt in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Here we go!
Here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go! 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 Here we go.
There's been a lot of football between 1966 and 2025, and for that to be the first time that that's ever happened in NFL history is kind of remarkable. And I mean, it's still very early in the season to lock down what exactly the Indianapolis Colts are going to be this season, because in my opinion, I feel like they were the hardest team for me to predict because, in my opinion, I do think Shane Steichen is a good coach. Daniel Jones, I've seen the best of Daniel Jones, and he went 9-8. He scored 15 touchdowns, and for the most part, he played clean football. But I mean, he's not gonna. He won a playoff game in his best season, but he's not a very inspiring quarterback. He's not a guy that you want as the face of your franchise. And like, he was not worth the money that New York gave him.
Not at all. No.
Not at all. Like, I mean, I knew the moment they did that, I was like, yeah, that's a mistake, Giants.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's impressive nonetheless. It's very impressive what the Indianapolis Colts have been able to do the last couple of weeks. And I mean, I'm assuming that this is going to be the first week that they punt, but whether or not that happens, like, I am impressed, and it's remarkable how good this Colts offense has looked. And that just, in my opinion, that speaks volumes about how good of a head coach Shane Steichen is and how awful of a quarterback Anthony Richardson was. So we'll see if Daniel Jones keeps this up.
Yeah, that's interesting because they do play the Titans week 3, and I'm really curious to see what Tennessee's defense is going to do. The last 2 games hasn't been exactly the most pretty games ever for Tennessee and Cam Ward, but I think it'd be really funny if it's a third straight week without any punts. Because let's be honest now, I mean, it's not impossible. Their opponent is not the toughest team ever. So I mean, I think the only time they'll ever get a chance to punt is if it's garbage time and backups are in or whatever. But no, I mean, that's interesting. I did not know, let alone not only the first team, but I'm surprised that actually hasn't happened. Yeah, there's so many dynasties that we went through. So that's pretty remarkable with Shane. And you know what? Because earlier predictions are early. The funny thing is that the Colts look pretty good. I'll say that, Johnny. The Colts pretty good. Although, I mean, that last game against the Broncos, I think it really could have gone to either team because of that penalty. It must, if I saw that game as a fan of any team and that happened to me, I would be sick to my stomach.
They did kind of luck out of that one.
Yeah, they kind of did, but you know what? A win is a win in my book. So, however you get it.
Word.
I mean, even if for those Chiefs, people who blame the Chiefs for always getting calls on them, at the same time, it sucks, but you got to beat them, and you still got to beat them. You can't worry about anything. So
absolutely,
that's the mindset I've always had when I played football as well.
For
but
sure.
Another stat, and some of these are not like crazy stats, but I do want to give a big shout out who I think might help my predictions a lot this season, but that is Drake May. And the reason why I also want to shout out Drake May is because that was an interesting Patriots and Dolphins game. I don't know if you saw the highlights of that.
Yes.
But as of now, Drake May is 4-10 as a starter. But the funny thing about him, he's really like an optimistic starter. Like, even though his record is 4-10, people are really optimistic about this guy. People in New England, people outside of New England, they believe that this team could potentially, I mean, I wouldn't say win the division. However, make a playoff appearance and maybe make some noise. Let's be honest, Miami Dolphins keep losing their credibility every time McDaniel goes on a rant or on a conference speech. But a win is still a win against a conference or division opponent, especially on an away game. Their home opening game. I had a friend of mine that went to that game. I had to text him to wish him my condolences. I felt bad. He had to see all that. But he only had 19 out of 23 attempts. He completed 19 out of 23 attempts, 230 passes, 2 touchdowns. Did get sacked 3 times, but I mean, this Mike Vrabel team. I mean, look, if it doesn't happen this year, there could be an argument next couple of years. Watch out, Buffalo,
Mm-hmm.
because who knows? New England could very well come back. And I'm not saying their coaching style is the same, but Mike Vrabel gives me a little bit of a Dan Campbell kind of vibe, and I say that because he is, of course, joining a team that he once played for. But I think he's all grit. He's all grit. He has his coordinator. He's really organized because a lot of new head coaches would come into a team and kind of like, we're doing it my way or the highway, and I might get fired in a year and a half, but I don't care. So I don't know. That's just the mindset I'm kind of rooting for with Mike Vrabel. So just a
Yeah,
little interesting,
absolutely.
little bit of a shout out. But yeah, you got any others?
I do
Mm-hmm.
indeed.
All
And
right.
this was an interesting storyline coming into the week because Detroit and Chicago played on Sunday, and it
Mm.
was it should have been a home. Well, I mean, he is on the opposite sideline, but not exactly a warm welcome for Ben Johnson coming back to Detroit.
That's sad. I'm not gonna lie.
It took a turn for the worst, and Amon-Ra St. Brown was kind of the poster child for it. Now, he didn't necessarily encourage the fans to say what they said about Ben Johnson, but he said on his own podcast, he said, "Listen, we're booing him when he comes into our stadium. We're booing him."
I can't relate to that. I mean, as a Browns fan, because we don't really like to do that, but
Right.
unless of our own. But Ben Johnson, I think that's kind of I wouldn't say outrageous. I think it's kind of sad in a way, just because. I mean, Ben Johnson gave you guys not only a NFC Championship appearance, but holy cow, like that offense! Like I've seen that Lions team go from terrible to now, a potential Super Bowl contender.
Right.
And the fact that they're doing that, I mean, I'm like, really, guys? Are you guys really doing that? And of course, they popped off, against the Bears. Jared Goff, he's only 23-10 against the NFC North, and he's 8-4 against the Bears.
Mm.
So I mean, I think Bears is like one of those teams in that division where they just keep other teams will constantly own them. Jared Goff is also only he's fourth in the NFL in passing yards and tied for first in passing touchdowns. I know it's week 2, but as it's progressed, I mean, like that coming back from that loss to the Packers, I mean, that's how you kind of come back from a loss. You just smoke the next team that you're playing, no matter who the team you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we just got to see because their big test, which I can't wait to talk about more later, is Monday Night Football upcoming week against the Ravens.
It's going to be a fun
So
one.
it's gonna be a good one. I think it's gonna be a
Should be.
shootout. It's gonna be a shootout.
I'm really hoping it lives up to the potential on paper, because on paper this is like one of
Oh
the
yeah.
most anticipated matchups of the year. But
Oh yeah.
yes, as far as
Potentially. Sorry,
go ahead.
Super Bowl, potentially Super Bowl matchup. Some are saying. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would go that far because I don't like the Ravens, but even then, we'll see. But yes, sorry. Go ahead, Johnny.
No, you're good. So as far as the second stat I wanted to mention, Amon-Ra St. Brown was the poster child of not welcoming Ben Johnson back home with a warm welcome. And, he backed it up. He scored a career high 3 touchdowns on Sunday. He was the only player in the NFL that scored 3 touchdowns. And man, he was electric. Let me tell you, he did a phenomenal job. And I think this guy is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like
Yeah.
he talked a lot of smack about Ben Johnson because that is a big piece of the puzzle as to why they got as far as they did a few years ago, why they won as many games as they did in the regular season last year. Like, I don't think it was right that they kind of wrote him off the way that they did. Like, I mean, yes, you beat him, but still, like, they could have had a little more class. Like, that was your coach at some point. But
Yeah.
give credit where credit is due. Amon-Ra balled out, and he's been like the one constant as far as if any of you guys play fantasy football. He's been like the one constant the last 3 years. He has been extremely reliable, and I think he's a borderline top 5 receiver. And honestly,
Yeah.
it's insane to me. I don't feel like we talk about him often enough, and it amazes me to this day how far how far he fell in the draft. Like
How far? What was his draft pick? I'm just
I think
curious.
he was a 4th or 3rd round pick. I'm pretty sure he was a 4th round pick.
From which college?
USC.
USC. Wow.
And USC is pretty decent when it comes to
Wide
developing
receivers.
receivers.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's pretty remarkable too. But even then, I'm not exactly sure with my Lions prediction. Because look, other teams are popping off because we made those predictions before the season. However, this Lions team, I mean, I guess a good way to kind of get it together is, beating your division rival. The saying, winning cures everything. So when they come back, next week, we'll see when they play the Ravens. That is another big test. They're going to play in a away game in Baltimore. But I'll talk to you more about that. I have more stats for that coming up. But other than that, one guy I want to shout out too. I actually want to shout out a guy who came from a former team of the Denver Broncos and, only had most 4 touchdowns with this team. And now this person is already reaching 3 touchdowns so far, and it's already week 2. And that is probably the second most clutchest player in that game against the Giants. That's Javonte Williams. I want to shout out your guy. Javonte Williams was an absolute dog that game, Johnny. He had about 18 carries, 97 yards. Of course, a touchdown, but he also had, I believe, a 6 receptions for 33 yards right there. But like I said, next to Brandon Aubrey, which, by the way, insane kicker you guys have.
Heck
Javonte, that man smoked that thing, and I knew it right from the beginning. I'm like, I should have drafted him in fantasy crap. But other than that, no. Javonte, also that run game getting you there with as many pass attempts that Dak Prescott does. It kind of felt like a well-balanced offense from seeing from the highlights and from viewing. I don't know exactly Brian Schottenheimer figured out your offense quite yet, but
right.
Look, I don't think you guys would be that bad. Maybe not. Fingers crossed for you guys. But you guys do play the Bears on Sunday, so we'll see. But the Bears already allowed 254 rushing yards and 70 points in the last 2 weeks. So there's your hope for something good for you guys.
Right.
But just a little shout out to Javonte Williams for you guys. Those are kind of like unsung heroes, I like to kind of call it. Just people who, even if it's not every week, at least it's that one game. And if you can bring your team from the dark and up to the bright, man, that's something. Oh yeah.
We are blessed to have a kicker as good as him. And again, it's early. I still don't know. You know what? Before we go any further, you know what my take is on that game?
What's your take?
That's the best bad football game in a long time.
I agree.
You know what I think? I said this going into the year. I don't know if I said it on the pod or if I said it outside of the pod, but I told you that pass defense was going to be a problem. And I said that this is going to resemble 2020's defense when we had to play catch up with all these teams and Dak ended up getting hurt later in the year. And you know what this game reminded me of? It reminded me of a game that also happened in week 2 in 2020. It was the Cowboys-Falcons game. I don't know if you remember that, but that is the game where the Falcons dumbed down and decided not to recover the onside kick, even though they totally could have. And it was a big choke because they were up by double digits. It was a very insane comeback. Like it should not have happened. It was, it's the Falcons, for crying out loud. They do this.
Yeah. They do
this all the time. I
don't like that their owner always comes down when their team's about to win. I think that's purely bad luck.
It's weird. I was thinking about that too.
He does that. He does in the regular season. He did it in the Super Bowl when they lost to Tom Brady. Coincidence? I think not. I don't like that he does that. However, hey, if they win, they win. But I think, look, I'm not a guy who believes in karma or omens, but if I was an owner, I wouldn't do that until the team wins. And then, okay, you know what I mean? I don't like that he does that. But yeah.
But I've noticed that too. I'm like, not even Jerry does that. That's so weird. Like, I don't understand that. Now, Jerry was in the locker room after
I saw
the game,
that.
But,
I saw that.
Oh, well. I guess that's more normal. Like, it could happen. I'm sure Jeffrey Lurie every now and then comes into the locker room for Philly. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't really pay
Yeah.
attention to that stuff as much. But the most important stat of the week, in my humble opinion, is a result of the Philly Kansas City game, the Super Bowl rematch. And
Yeah.
Kansas City is now 0-2 for the first time since 2014.
Insane. Donnie,
And
how old were you in 2014?
I was 16.
16? Yeah, I think I was
Yep.
about 11, 12, around that age.
I was 16, and the Kansas City
I was
Chiefs
11.
they currently find themselves in fourth place in the AFC West. Yes, they are last behind the Raiders, the Broncos, and yes, the team that they lost to, who is now 2-0 and leading the division, the Chargers. Now, the reason it's a big deal that they started 0-2, I've heard it talked about a long time. It's really hard to come back from 0-2. How hard is it? Go back the last 3 seasons. 19 out of 21 teams the last 3 seasons have missed the playoffs after starting 0-2. I'm not really sure who. I know one of the teams. It was the Bengals, because I remember
Yeah.
in 2022, the Bengals started 0-2, and I think they lost like 3 games the rest of the way and made it all the way back to the AFC Championship. And I'm not really sure who the other team was, but case in point, it's very hard to do so. And I think, again, it's early. The Chiefs are still really good. They have insane chemistry, but they're going to be healthy, like down the line. Like Rashee Rice will be back at some point. Xavier Worthy will be back at some point. This is a team that, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'd be a little nervous for how the rest of the season's going to go, because it has not
I
looked
agree.
pretty. It has not looked pretty at all.
And here's another thing. I think, and here's my humble opinion, of course, where I'll talk more about them because I have a lot of things to get into that with that game against the Eagles. Um, that that the Chiefs, if they miss the playoffs, which is not a hot take at this point, if they miss the playoffs, I think the dynasty is going to be put on a hiatus, and I say hiatus because Patrick Mahomes is the cornerstone of that franchise, and they're going to find people to, of course, get to that, to get to their team, rebuild it. I don't think it's going to be next year. However, I do think Travis might retire. I don't know, maybe. I think if they miss the playoffs, I mean, he might just retire at that point. But I could be wrong. Maybe he'll go for another run. But is the Kansas City Chiefs being bad now good for the NFL? Is it? Is it not? Does it allow a more refreshing, of other teams to kind of come up and build their story, their legacy, maybe a dynasty? However, I feel like the funny thing with the Chiefs, and I don't think maybe it was Taylor Swift, but like I remember Patriots dynasty getting hated because they won a lot. But I feel like with the Chiefs, people, it's not just hate, they get annoyed of this. They're annoyed of this dynasty. They're annoyed of this era of the Kansas City Chiefs. They say you win one Super Bowl or one championship, it's cool, and then you win another one, all right, a third one. That's when people are like, we don't, we won't change, So for that, I mean, I think it is crazy that first time since 2014 that they're on to in the Andy Reid era, and does Andy Reid want to retire? I don't know. He's 67. I don't know if I said this last episode, but I remember the stat. He's currently 67. While I believe Bill Belichick, when he won the Super Bowl with the Patriots, the most recent one in 2019 against the Rams, he was 66. And Tom Brady left. I'm not saying the situation Patrick's going to definitely stay, but I don't think Andy Reid has much in him either. He has a good resume for a coach. He might just retire. Who knows? But one thing that this game has taught me, I think the tush push is actually annoying me now. When I saw that clip and I see clips of this, the offensive line of the Eagles false starts, they have that edge to where they, of course, get that head start, and it's almost unstoppable. I saw that what Nick Wright said, and I think it is crazy that they have gone away with this because at first I thought it wasn't that bad, but then I'm like, do I want them to ban it or not? Is it a football player? Is this something that like a coach probably could do in high school? You know what I mean? Something like for a football team. I think they might just that game might have just banned the tush push. and if it gets worse, they're gonna have to they're gonna have to talk about that conversation again this upcoming off season. But of
Hmm.
course, one day at a time. So who knows? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that it should have been banned a year ago. I think this past offseason, it definitely should have been out the window. And I think when NFL owners get together in the spring, I think they need to go back and, I mean, we're not through with the season yet, but I'm assuming this isn't going to be the last time that we see the tush push happen. And so with that, I'm sure that there's going to be offensive linemen that move before the snap, just like it happened in the Chiefs game. So they're going to have plenty of evidence to back them up. And it, if you don't ban the tush push at that point, is it ever getting banned? Like this is a 3-year-old play at this point.
It's
So
what do you do if it's 4th and 1? Can you still QB sneak it? You just can't have someone behind you push you.
yeah, exactly.
Is
Exactly.
that
You
the
can
good
definitely,
rule? Okay,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
QB
QB
sneak
sneak
it.
should never be illegal because we've been
Yeah,
doing QB sneaks forever, but this
but what's
is,
worse is the two people that push against the quarterback, which they changed though. They did change that, and I
hmm
forgot how they lined it up. But yeah, we'll see, man. So that was pretty
hmm
bad. I mean, you know, when the owners come and see that, I think it needs to happen more than once though. So if they keep getting these evidence of videos of offensive line just false starting, like yeah, they keep doing this, and you're not calling it, so we got to ban it.
One other thing I wanted to point out before we move on is the Chiefs are 0-2. They lost to the Chargers, who are in their division. They lost to the Eagles, who they lost to in the Super Bowl. And they have 8 games left against playoff teams from last season. So looking at it here, they have their next playoff team that they have to play against, the Ravens, then they got the Lions, then they got the Commanders, then they got the Bills, the Broncos, the Texans, the Chargers, the Broncos.
I don't think I have enough firepower, Johnny.
It's not a very easy. Now, again, they don't have enough firepower right now. They're regaining that firepower later. I mean,
They are.
Worthy's not going to be hurt forever. Rasheed Rice, I'm sure he'll be recovered by the time his suspension is over after
Hmm.
he's served his time. But yeah, I mean, it's not the most appealing offense that you've ever seen. And the Chiefs have gotten away with this for so long, but it does seem like it's finally catching up with them.
Yeah,
Finally.
it hasn't felt. I think since Tyreek Hill left, I'm so surprised they won two more Super Bowls,
It's
just because
crazy.
how the offense is run. But I think they really just play for like they what Andy Reid does with this offense is more like a game of chess. He like any
Hmm.
team he plays against, he's prepared. So we'll see later this season, man.
Moving on now to our best loss, worst win segment. Irving, who had the best loss of week 2?
I think it's gonna be funny that I'm gonna say this as the best loss because it is probably the most messiest game ever. But I'm gonna say the New York Giants on this one,
Mm.
Johnny. And the reason why is because look, I thought they were gonna get blown out, and there's times there's times in this game where they had the lead, and the spread was actually 5.5, so they did cover on that half, so that's good for them. But Russell Wilson, he has like these early games where like people question, "Holy cow, this is the Russell Wilson we once knew." Um, I don't think that's going to happen later on the season. However, it is still remarkable that he's still doing it during this time of his career. So Russell Wilson had 41 attempts passing, 30 of them completed, 450 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. That's crazy if you had him on fantasy. But also he had 1 pick, so that might have hurt a little bit. But even then, that's still pretty good. But also shout out to Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, 9 receptions, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. So if you're if you have a Giant player or a player from the Giants on your fantasy team, you're doing pretty well. Because Cam Scadaboo also has a touchdown with 45 yards. So I mean, if it wasn't for the miracle kicker Brandon Aubrey, they would have got out with the win. So that's pretty neat. Like I'm not confident in the Giants at all. They haven't played, that well. But they played quite a game against a division rival, and they almost beat Dak Prescott for the first time since 2016. This doesn't exactly save Brian Dable's job.
No.
Um, but what it does tell me is that this Dallas Cowboys defense is very weak. Sorry, buddy. But was able to do almost anything offensively that they wanted to do. But it's gonna be it's gonna be a nice little moment because like this could be a one win that Chiefs get because they do play Kansas City week 3 for Sunday Night Football, which is kind of questionable because I think it'd be really funny that if the Giants beat the Chiefs in that game. Yeah, it is a home game. It's in New York. The Chiefs don't exactly have a preliminary defense like they did, but I mean it'd be pretty funny if Giants beat the Chiefs. That game to me could potentially go either way because both teams have a lot of big flaws. But I think the New York Giants in this one. I think they. It's because they proved me wrong. I thought they were going to get blown out. I thought the Cowboys was going to manhandle them. I was wrong in that part. They could have won the freaking game if it wasn't for Brendan Aubrey's wife a long time ago telling him, "Hey, you should start being a kicker." Which, by the way, I don't know if you know the story, but his wife told him.
I do.
Yeah,
Yep.
he played for the Canada Football League and ended up here. So if it wasn't for that,
It's a great
the Giants
story.
would have won. Oh yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's
So
awesome,
I mean,
man.
shout out to Brandon, but also to the Giants. You guys lost, but you might have lost in the funniest but best way, I could say. So yeah.
Oh gosh, the only way that game could have ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason that. See, I hear your points. They're good points. I think these are two bad football teams, man. That's why I said this is the best bad football game since that Falcons-Cowboys game in 2020. Like,
Oh yeah.
I will not be shocked if that is the most production that the Giants have on offense all season long because I think our pass defense is that terrible.
Yeah.
I think
it was a lot
we're
of
rough,
fun.
man.
I know
It
as an
was
outside
fun.
fan, because trust me, I get those comments whenever it's a Browns game. But for me, it's like when I saw these two play each other, I thought this was kind of fun just watching. Just like, oh wow, what's gonna happen
Oh,
next?
yeah.
Now, when Russell Wilson threw that pick in overtime, right? It was right. Where was he throwing to? I was like, where's he? I mean, and then you guys got the ball back and Brandon scored for the win. But I think because Giants, it took advantage. And the fact that they could have came up on top, and I think, of course they choked their own way, but I think for the Giants, I have to give them best loss because for me it was entertaining, and I think for them they could have came
Entertaining.
out.
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
I was really upset, man.
I'm sorry, though.
I was really upset with what I was watching, man. Because I mean, it'd be one thing if we just looked ugly and squeaked out a win, or lost. Like okay, fine. The Giants finally beat us, but man, we did not deserve to win that game. I'm telling you what, man. As far as who I picked for the best loss of the weekend, listen. I don't think any team looked worse in week 1 than the Miami Dolphins. They looked out of sync. Tua, that's probably the worst that I've ever seen him look. And for the Dolphins to come out and look the way that they did against New England in week 2, I got to give them a little bit of credit. They did not look terrible, and they actually had a chance to win the game at the end if their star running back did not step out of bounds, Devon Achane. He was that close, man. He had every Dolphins fan excited, man. Like we actually beat the Patriots again, but they fell just short. They had some mistakes, of course. Like it's just going to happen. And the biggest key to victory for the Patriots was that kickoff return for a touchdown. So special teams got the best of them, and unfortunately, the Miami Dolphins fell short again. But I think I'm impressed. For me, I'm impressed because I think the Patriots are actually a good team.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty. They're going to be a great team, in the future. But I got to give props to them. But yeah, that I can see why the Dolphins would be also best best loss. However, just a little fun fact, by the way, something that really kind of breaks my heart, Johnny. It's just a little random subject changer, but we'll get back. Because you mentioned Cowboys defense. I want to tell you something really funny that kind of really makes me upset. This defense ranks number 1 in yards allowed. Somehow they allow 7 touchdowns, thanks to the offense, and they're also top 5 in both passing and rushing defense. Johnny, that is the Cleveland Browns, and I'm sorry. It's just I'm still a little bit upset about that loss. We're going to be such a bad football team. But Miles Garrett's doing everything around. But it's kind of dates back to what Michael Parsons says. I like what he said. This quote is that there's times where the offense can sell the game, but the thing about defense is that defense can sell too when it comes to a shootout. And that's why, and I believe in this too, defense does win championships.
Mm-hmm.
But to get you there, you need the offense. So that's what you need, man. So, hey, look, hoping for that Cowboys defense to get much better. And even for the Dolphins, well, time will tell. But even for the Dolphins for that game, I think that's another reason why I shout out Drake. Man, he looked pretty composed no matter what was going on in that game, and he was locked in. I'm like, holy cow, okay, well, go crazy, Drake. So, I mean, other than that,
I'm a Drake May believer, man. I'm a Drake May believer. I think he's going to do well.
I agree, man.
Worst win.
Worst win. I have it right here. Actually, this might be really bad. However, if this person was still playing during the game, I think they still would have been here if they won because it was pretty rough. And that is the Cincinnati Bengals, Johnny. The reason why I think it's the Cincinnati Bengals is because, they just squeaked by a Jaguars team. Now, Jaguars, you guys, they blew it though. But even then, they were without their star player, Joe Burrow, I believe, to start the second quarter, I want to say. So Jake Browning, made some cool passes. He had 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. Threw for 21 at 32 attempts, 21 completions. It's one of those games where the Jaguars should have really won. And I was watching it at the good old B4 Brady's, and I'm like, how are the Bengals still in on this? And Jake Browning, he decides whether or not he wants to bring his team to victory or not, which I think was kind of funny. So, I mean, their run game wasn't even a factor at all. They only had 16 carries for 47 yards for Chase Brown. So, I mean, even then, I don't know. 16 carries is a lot for, that many yards if you're going to get. The Jaguars had some turnovers as well, but Jake Browning threw the 3 picks. And here's the funny thing. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, man, I guess even if you're Zach Taylor, how do you come from this game when you're losing your play for 3 months? By the way, that's why I give them their worst win, because it was really such a messy win. And it was messy a little bit in the beginning with Joe Burrow, I'm not going to lie, because their Browns defense wasn't there. So it was messy. And they could have really – should have been the Jaguars. Maybe the Jaguars are better than we give them credit for. That's why the AFC South is really a confusing division for me every year. But even then, the next 5 games, the Bengals have the Vikings, but it's an away game, so we'll see. But after that, they have the Broncos, Lions, Packers, and Steelers. I feel like each loss is another temperature that goes up for Zach Taylor's seat. I think his seat is getting warmer and warmer, and and you know what's the funny thing is that I do think, hopefully, Joe Burrow, won't longer be made of glass. I would like to see, him succeed more, but I mean, obviously not because he's division rivals, but I want them to keep Zach Taylor because I believe they're holding them back 100%. I 100% know he's holding them back. And so if you take Zach Taylor out, put a new coach in, a new system, something more organized, much better, much more balanced, that team could be more than, just a playoff contender, which always made me so confused of how Zach Taylor managed to get that team to the Super Bowl. And Joe Burrow's, what was it, second or third year? I think it was his second year. Yeah, that's what was even more impressive for me. So, because he had one season where he was out for the year, so I wouldn't count that either. So, yes, a messy game too, kind of like Cowboys and Giants. Not crazy messy, however. The Bengals should have lost this game. That's why I do believe them, and I believe that they should get the worst win for my pick of this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
My pick for the worst win of the week, I picked Arizona's win over the Carolina.
That's a good one, yeah.
And the reason being, Irving, the Arizona Cardinals are now 2-0. And they have the 49ers coming up. And I'm not joking, Irving. They might be the most fraudulent potential 3-0 team that I've seen in some time. They beat the Saints last week. and they're going to be playing the 49ers next week, potentially without Brock Purdy or with a worse version of Brock Purdy. They are currently favored in that game. They should win that game if Brock Purdy is dealing with the injury as much as he is with the turf toe. Same as Joe Burrow, except it's a little bit worse. But yeah, my take for Carolina and Arizona coming into the year, I thought Carolina was a sleeper. I didn't necessarily think they were a playoff team, but I believed that they were going to take another step up from where they were last year, especially Bryce Young. And, they haven't looked great so far. And my thoughts on Arizona, they're easily the fourth best team in the division. Now,
Agreed.
with the 49ers' health, it's a little bit different. That kind of rearranges some things. They might be the third best team now with Brock Purdy missing some time and even George Kittle. And assuming Christian McCaffrey gets hurt at some point in the season, they'll easily be the third best team in the division. But this team was up 27-3 at one point, and Carolina went with 19 unanswered points. They recovered an onside kick, Irving, and I watched the end of that game. It was not pretty. Arizona looked like they did not want to win that football game. And they shouldn't have won the football game because all the momentum was on Carolina's side. Carolina just did not take advantage. They did not capitalize. And it was rough, my guy. It was really bad.
I have a friend of mine who does bets, and that was the last thing he wanted on his parlay, and his hot take was the Panthers winning that game. And then when they were coming back up, I was like, holy cow. It was not a crazy amount. It was a good amount. It was a good amount for it was like a 10-leg parlay. But the crazy thing is that I don't think the Cardinals will actually go 2-0, or sorry, 3-0 next week. I do think the 49ers are going to beat them. I have the pick to do that. Mac Jones didn't look too bad against the Saints. Yes, it's the Saints, but he had about 39 attempts for 26 completed in passing, 279 yards plus three touchdowns.
Not bad.
It is the Saints, but when you lose, Kittle, and you still have McCaffrey, you manage to still beat an NFL team in any given Sunday league. So in that case, it's kind of like to my point I said last week, I believe. I think Kyle Shanahan can make anyone a quarterback because under that offense, Mac Jones looked like, a Mac Jones that would get drafted in the first round. So, I wouldn't give too much, or I wouldn't, what's the word I'm trying to look for? I wouldn't overrate the 49ers in that game against the Cardinals. However, I do think Cardinals are fraudulent. And they have been. Is it a hot take to say that ever since Kyler Murray has been with that team, they've always been a fraudulent team, even with that 7-0 season they had?
Yes.
Absolutely. They don't strike me as a team that, here comes the Cardinals. I'm speaking as a Browns fan, but I'm saying that Arizona. It's so weird that, and I believe when NFLPA does their rates, their how players feel about the organization and everything else, that team is usually on dead last in a lot of those categories.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going on in Arizona. However, yes, it's a good pick. Arizona should have also lost that game. Their momentum was completely lost. I was really surprised when Carolina recovered that onside kick.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But I do think they will be last place eventually in their division.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
All right, let's get to our locks and upsets of the week. So just to recap how everything shaped up last week, I picked Detroit over Chicago as my lock of the week. That's a W. Atlanta over Minnesota was my upset of the week. That was also a W. Irving, you picked, for your lock of the week, you picked Los Angeles to beat Tennessee. That was an easy W. And the upset of the week, not quite as fortunate, buddy. I loved all the points that you made, but man,
they didn't want to play football yesterday. Felt like
Geno Smith looked. I didn't watch. I only watched a fraction of the game because that was a late game, bro. But just looking at the stats, Geno looks rough.
He does.
Geno looked really bad, bro.
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't even know how they beat the Patriots in week 1. I was really kind of annoyed that the Patriots lost against that team. But
it's that week 1 smoke and mirrors, man.
Yeah, no, it really is. Sorry, remind me again also, who was your upset of the week?
My upset of the week was Atlanta over Minnesota.
Yeah, because they were the underdogs in that
They
game.
were the underdogs, yes.
I had the Vikings in that game, but I was even kind of struck that they weren't the underdogs. I just felt like because of home opening
Right,
Minnesota. But
exactly.
other than that, I mean, yeah, look, I have some. My upsets and locks is probably, hopefully, gonna most likely kind of happen. There was a game that I picked, and I'm gonna go with my lock right now. By the way,
All right,
there's a
perfect.
game last week I picked that I picked this team to lose against this other team. I thought the Steelers was gonna lose to the Seahawks. The Seahawks, however, overcome that, which I'm happy. Hey, you beat the Steelers. Thank you for your service. I appreciate that. So, other than that, um, Seattle is playing New Orleans at home. That's a lock of the week. I mean, the 12th
Mm,
man, if it still exists, they will be there. They are favored by 7.5. However, I think they might blow the smokes off because if Seattle is a slightly better team than San Francisco, I do believe that Seattle could just whoop that. I don't know,
hmm
just beat the crap out of the Saints. Much credit to Spencer Rattler. I can't speak.
It's all
Um,
good.
much credits to Spencer Rattler, who had a not a bad game against the Niners, against a great defensive team. However, I don't think that they're enough at all to beat Seattle in Seattle. So, I mean, if this Seattle team can go 2-1 at home, hopefully, they might manage to kind of that division can go anywhere. I mean, it is Rams. I think Rams will take that division, but if the second place team in that division can make a playoff appearance, I believe they can get it done. It's a big prove-it year for Seahawks with Sam Darnold and Mike McDonald. They kind of have to still prove themselves to see if they're still going to, be a above average NFL team.
hmm
Their defense has only allowed no more than 17 points in the last two games too. So
Mm,
imagine what this defense could do against the Saints
right.
coming into town. But I will have the Seattle Seahawks as my lock of the week.
I absolutely love that pick. I think that
Mm-hmm.
Seattle should crush New Orleans as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Mike McDonald's defense, I think they're going to come through. They're going to rattle Spencer Rattler. That's what I think
Oh,
they're going to do.
good one. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
my lock of the week, I am going with Houston over Jacksonville. They are going. This might shock you, but Houston is actually. It's going to sound like I'm cheating here because
No, you're good.
Houston is actually the underdog in this game.
Yeah, I
They
saw
are
that.
they are a 1.5 underdog. In my opinion, that's not a real upset. So I'm not putting that under the upset of the
No.
week category. But I think Houston's 0-2. I mean, it's a rough start. Both games came down to one possession, and last night's game, that was cinema, man. Like, like give credit to Tampa. Like,
Yeah. I
I'm not I'm not necessarily like I know a lot of people are trashing on CJ Stroud for the way he looked yesterday. He did not look great, but I think that's more good Tampa than bad Houston. And
I
I
agree.
think I think next week this is a must win for Houston. They have to win this game. They can't go 0-3. I still think that this is the best team in the AFC South, and I think they're going to prove that this next week against the Jags. CJ Stroud has done well against the Jags, man. And I think that we're going to look at a very good opportunity for a bounce back for the Texans as a whole. I think Texans defense should be able to shut down Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen for the most part. And I expect CJ Stroud to have his cleanest game of the season for sure.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Which that game was pretty good. It felt really weird seeing Nick Chubb go for the go-ahead touchdown and Baker Mayfield with a comeback drive. It felt a little too close to home. I can't.
Mm,
You know, I think 5 years ago I would have loved that. On the same team, but oh well. But yeah, no, it is crazy that the Texans are underdogs because I think they're giving the Jaguars credit against the Bengals.
hmm
Um, we'll see. I'm not convinced with Jacksonville at all. I mean, Liam Cohen, you saw him and Trevor like yelling at each other on the
I
sideline as
did.
well.
That was interesting.
Yeah, where Trevor was like back off or whatever. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, oh wow, he doesn't. There will be Houston Texans will take on Jaguars in Duval.
hmm
Duval. So we'll see. We'll see how they do. But I actually have, if I were to pick, I have Houston winning that game against
Yep.
Jacksonville. But for the upset, A game that I want to talk a lot about because they're not favored, but I think they're going to win. And I'm taking the Lions over the Baltimore Ravens for Monday Night Football. And the
Wow.
reason why, because this statistic game is going to be really
Wow.
exciting. It's going to be a shootout. I don't think defense will be barely played unless there's some turnover that happens stupidly because of a fumble, whatever. No, it might be a hot take. However, they are underdog by 4.5. That's how much is Baltimore's favored by. Future Super Bowl prediction, who knows? Both teams coming out a win from obliterating their opponents. Rest in peace, Cleveland Browns. I think this game is going to be a big shootout. Defense is kind of mid on both sides. It's not crazy defense. I mean, yes, Browns are not good offensively, so I'm not giving the Ravens that credit. Just hear me out on this. But what's interesting is that Ravens, with Lamar Jackson, in the Lamar Jackson era with John Harbaugh, they're 7-2 in Monday Night Football games and 21-8 in primetime games. That's a pretty remarkable stat for that team just to always show up on primetime. I'm surprised they don't even have a Thanksgiving game yet, this team.
Right?
But guess what? The crazy thing, too, is that they're also going against a team that does play well primetime. The Detroit Lions with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff, that whole era, they are 3-1 in Monday Night Football games, and 11-2 on primetime games. So you're going to see two teams kind of colliding for this whole big, entertaining, galactic, like, freaking shootout we're going to see. The over and under is 51.5. So if that tells you anything, Las Vegas,
Golly.
yes, I believe this is going to be, I think it's going to be, I'll put over. I think it's going to over 51 points altogether. So, I mean, unclear, both teams, I think it's going to come to a game-winning kick by Jake Bates. And so, look, it's a hot take it's an upset for an upset. It's also they're playing in Baltimore, so they're really. I mean, that's probably the reason why they're underdogs because it's Monday night. It's in Baltimore. Fans get loud. But I think this game's gonna be a really great one, and I hope it becomes one of those like Monday Night Football classics. I have the Lions winning this game, Johnny. They're underdogs. They're contender for the playoffs. But I think the Lions are going to spoil the Ravens' fun on Monday Night Football this coming week.
Man, that's a bold one. That's a really bold one.
Is it
more bold than last week, man? In my
You
opinion,
think?
I think
It's
so,
upset
bro.
for a reason. I have to pick the way I think of upset. I think of something that I think it's might or might not happen. But in this case, I am rooting for the Ravens to lose, so I will be picking the Lions on this game.
It's such a hard one, man. Because and I'll tell you why they're 4.5-point underdogs. I mean, you already mentioned Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' record on Monday night. I mean, it's ridiculous how good they do. Not just on Monday night, but just prime time in general. Like they always kill it. And Lamar's record against the NFC, he does very well against NFC opponents. And I think he's only lost like 2 or 3 times to an NFC opponent in his career, which is ridiculous. And another thing as well. Do you remember the last time the Lions and the Ravens met?
Yes, that really lucky Justin Tucker kick that hit the goalpost and went in.
No, not that one. Not that one. The one 2 years ago when the Lions were actually really good. 38-6.
Oh.
38-6, my guy.
Wait, was that in Baltimore or Detroit?
That was in Baltimore.
Was it a primetime game?
It was not. It actually was not.
There we go. That's right. But Dan Campbell, look. Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson have been together longer than Harbaugh and Goff. But Lions do pretty well too in primetime games.
They do.
I gotta give them a little bit of a shout out. Sorry, but I think this game is going to test both teams. Both teams are 1-1. Right, 1-1. Yeah, Lions are 1-1. So it's going to be an interesting one. However, I think if it's a shootout, it will go either way. And I do think it comes into a kick. I think the final score might be like 36-33 or something.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I hope I hope you're right. I hope that's what we're getting because I mean, on paper, this should be a fantastic matchup. But I thought the same thing for Commanders Packers, and it's a little more one-sided than I would have hoped for. On paper, it was a great matchup. But
Packers defense is that good. I'm not convinced.
They're really good
at all.
They're really
I'm
good.
not convinced because trust me, Cleveland's defense held their own against the Ravens for like the first couple quarters, and they got exhausted because the offense couldn't
Right.
stay on the field for any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So our offense is that bad, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not convinced by Ravens defense at all.
Right.
So we'll see. Their defense also allowed, when it came to a contending team, they allowed that Buffalo Bills comeback. So I'm not. Look, if that game is going to be anywhere close to like that kind of point total, I think the Lions can go in a shootout, and I could be really dead wrong. Maybe this is a game where Ben Johnson should have stayed in Detroit, and maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
That could have made things more interesting, but I could be really dead wrong. But I think it's an upset for a reason. That's why that's a hot take. So I have the Lions winning for Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I hear you. My whole thing is another thing why I don't believe it's going to happen is Jared Goff's coming off a really, really good game against the Bears. Like, are we going to get 2 great games from Jared Goff in a row? That's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough to replicate what he did against the Bears. Now, he doesn't have to do awesome, but I don't know. If I had to
I don't think he does.
If I had to pick between 2 extremes, which is more likely? Is last week more likely, or is the primetime game against the Texans last year? I don't know if you remember that game. That was an ugly game. Jared Goff threw like 4 to 5 interceptions. Like, if I had to pick like between those 2 extremes, which is more likely, I got to go with the 4 to 5 interception game. That's what I'm predicting.
I will predict, if I was going to predict Jared Goff's stat line for this game, I think he throws for 2. I think it'll be 2 touchdowns, 2 picks,
Okay.
over 250 yards.
Okay.
But even then, I think it's also going to be hopefully a balanced game too, with James Montgomery. They have, like, you can make an argument, like, if their problem is the quarterback, hello Cleveland, right? If the problem is the quarterback, for Jared Goff, I'm not saying they're looking for changes. I think it'd be too soon for that.
Too
I
soon.
think if you have a great roster, I don't think you need an elite quarterback to take you to the promised land. If you have an above average quarterback, I think that's enough. And if you have a roster all around, then that's good.
Absolutely.
Many examples for that. But anyways, yeah, just get to the Lions.
If he has time, that's going to lead to them winning the game. But
yes.
I don't know if I see that against Baltimore. As far as my upset goes, I was a little torn on this one. Like, I had to really figure this one out, because there's a couple teams I think could upset this week, but I think I'm ultimately going to settle with Cam Ward getting his first victory against the Colts this week. And
oh, wow. Okay.
I think you could make the argument that the Colts should have lost last week, and they kind of lucked out of that one. And I think Cam Ward, he's looked pretty decent. And the first 2 defenses that he's gone up against are defenses that I consider, at the very least, above average. Like, I think the Rams defense is elite, and I think the Broncos defense is, they allowed, 29 points against the Colts the other day. Like, and Patrick Surtain did get hurt, but I do think highly of the Broncos. These are 2 defenses that I think highly of, and I think Cam Ward has shown enough for me to believe that he is the answer for this franchise. And here's another thing. This is the first, I don't want to say this is the first test for Daniel Jones, but this is his first road game of the season. They have to go to Tennessee. And, these games are always close between Tennessee and Indianapolis. And I've been very high on Cam Ward. And so I'm going to give Cam Ward and the Titans the edge over the Colts. And, maybe all this, I don't know how everybody's opinions have changed. Like I'm still torn on whether or not the Colts are a good team or not. You know what I mean?
You think it's one of those 2-0 little, what do you call it? One-hit wonders, where there's just like, yeah, we're 2-0, but maybe to be fair, the division they're in, I think it can go to really anyone at this point.
Right.
I had Houston winning it, but they're 0-2. Colts are 2-0. So we'll see how that fares out. I think you think my game was a hot take. I don't think the Titans are winning the game at all. I think the Colts are going to beat them.
You don't think they're winning at all? Okay.
No, I don't have them winning at all that game. And so, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. but that's like you said, or it's an upset. So hey, I respect it
for sure. It's a
what's
home
the
game.
what's the spread on that? I'm actually really curious.
3.5. 3.5.
Oh, that's too close. I think.
I know. You think that's too close? Wow.
I think that's too close.
You think there's that big of a gap between the Colts and the Titans?
I think so. I think the Colts can win by a touchdown, if not more.
Even with the way they went up against the Rams, who I think very highly of. I love the Rams this year.
Yes, but also it's week 1. But
week 2.
It was week 2. Sorry.
Yeah, this past week. Yep.
We'll see how everything fares out, but I do think the Colts are gonna. I mean, I wouldn't say smoke them, but
I don't think they're smoking them. These are always close games, man.
It is divisional. Okay, I'll give you that. Division rival. So yeah, no, we'll see. I have some really hot takes. I don't know if people who are interested in this, but I will say,
hey, Daniel Jones has not turned the ball over yet, man.
Yes.
You think that he's going to go a third straight game? They haven't punted yet, and Daniel Jones has not turned the ball over yet. You think that's happening? Again, it's not. It's not happening.
Bo Nix threw three picks against the Titans, so it could happen.
Against the Titans, he did, but then a little bit cleaner last week.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
It's a good episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Views from the Booth. Make sure you guys hit subscribe, hit that like button, and let us know down below, who is your lock of the week? Who is on upset alert this week? Is there a player that you expect to have a bounce back week like Amon-Ra St. Brown did this past week? Let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But yes, anyways, this was a great episode. Irving, this was fun, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Later, y'all.
See you later.